for another business talk. Today we're talking about kind of customers, consumers, their opinions, feedback, feelings, and business. Because I see it happen all the time, and I myself I've fallen victim to it. Victim might be the wrong word, but I've fallen for that trap before. And so yeah, let me get the chat up here. But where I saw this today, and it made me think, okay, I want to do a video on this because I feel like we're all consumers of products, and I think we've all been at that spot where we give feedback and we think we know what we want, what's best. And I don't think that's true most times. And I think algorithms kind of prove that a lot of times, and there's always going to be outliers. But in this particular instance, that I was seeing another very popular creator, you guys might know of it, Linus Tech Tips, right? I'm watching a video called Why They Don't Collaborate with More Businesses, right? And Linus, kind of the main guy of the show, is talking about how it's his job to make good content, and if they don't get at least 1 million views, it's not worth them to create the content because they've got 50 employees and they've got bills to pay and things like that. And as he's explaining it, everything is ringing very true to me in content and product development and all of that because I have to live on that other side. But the viewership, the fans of this thing, they chime in with telling him how he's doing his job wrong, essentially, right? And so I thought I would read a couple of comments and then comment on them from a business side. Because when I do this in my own business, if I try to do what Linus has done and try to explain to people, they just think you've changed or you got greedy or X, Y, or Z, and they don't see it from the lens of like, no, this is just, it's not that someone doesn't want to do it, it's that they can't do it. And I'll explain why it can't work. So the video is called Why Collaboration Videos Are Hard to Make. And I'm going to cherry pick some of the comments. This video, the little clip came out today. So know that, there's other comments there and not everyone always thinks this way. And I'm specifically choosing a big portion of viewers that would comment this way. Let's see here. I had one highlighted. I was going to do the show differently, and then. All right, so this one might do it. So this person says sacrifice the present for the future. That's their handle. Dang, does this mean we'll never get any of the hardcore nerdy stuff? I don't know what channels to subscribe to for good computer stuff. There's no space agency, no Linux, no nothing. And then someone replies, says, I guess a successful YouTuber with appropriate interests and content adjacent to the area, but with most of all a team around to build it, could do this. The problem with this line of thinking is social media does not reward wide topics, and nor do viewers. And what I mean by that is, let's use something that we can all agree on, food, right? If you're a pizza place and you make great pizza and you have thousands and thousands of customers, lines out the door, you call to order pizza, it takes 5 hours because everyone loves this pizza, right? And then the owner says, well, we're not going to do Mexican food. Everyone goes, yeah, that makes sense. You do pizza. But somehow as a creator, when you say well, we're never, we tried doing some Mexican food. We had a food truck, didn't work out so well, right? You get pushback of yeah, but people that love pizza, they don't eat pizza 7 times a day or 7 times a week. They'll like Mexican food too, right? But the reality is the business isn't set up to do Mexican food. It doesn't have the same cooks that it might need. It's got resources, that's true, right? But someone that, a really expensive pizza oven, maybe he's not going to make that burrito, right? So that's kind of the first little example of okay, you might get a little bit. Let me find. me let me delve a little bit cooler, or a little bit. I read the word cooler. So this person says. So one of the takeaways from the video was, maybe working with NASA or another big corporation that basically they wouldn't let them film the way they needed to film. That's off limits. Whether it's for security or something like that. And his premise was, if they're going to go somewhere and film, they need basically full access because they need to make a good video. That's their job while they're there, is to promote that company and do a good video. The problem that happens all too often is that you get stipulations put. You can't show this. I don't like the way that came out. All of these things. And you're left with basically a bad video. You don't have what you needed. You couldn't tell a story. And then the client is not happy either, because they're going, well, that didn't get as many views as it should have. Your other videos are getting millions. Why did this one only get 100,000? And so this comment here, right, says, saying that NASA or launches aren't interesting show topics for this Linus Tech Tips, which is around technology and mostly computers, right? This person's name is Surviving Networking IT. So clearly they watch the show, they're in the space, right? And they say, saying NASA or launches aren't interesting shows little into the topic. There were 18 million views on the SpaceX channel for the first car in space launch, right? What the person is totally discounting here is that doesn't mean they all watched it on the same channel or the same device or at the same time or with the same narrator, right? That's no different than saying, last year 18 million people had Mexican food. That still does not mean it's a good idea for a thriving business place to completely pivot and try to do Mexican food, right? Like I feel like that's a lot easier to see. Like, well, yeah, that doesn't make sense. But content creators are pushed that way all the time, where it's like, but I am interested in this too. I would watch that, right? And that's the eternal problem, the eternal struggle. So they keep talking about, seeing Linus put a dish on top of their roof, basically to get internet. It's just a documentary of how their business is expanding, an equivalent of a Facebook posting saying, look at me, the business is growing. It's starting to become, the channel likes to rehash stuff over and over again. The example, they listed 5 examples. Let's see this super cool CPU for the 13th time. Let's make another custom water loop. Let's get awesome Wi-Fi. Let's talk about another paid review of a laptop. Let's build another storage server for another purpose, right? So the consumer, the customer, is starting to burn out on the content, right? They also say maybe Linus Media Group has been forced down this road, so Linus doesn't need to be on set for 52 weeks a year, but eventually cookie cutter channels fade. And I think what is still being glossed over here is that they're a pizza company, and if you don't know, I mean, they're a technology company, but they've built a business. They got 50 employees, and they serve pizza. You don't really yell at your local pizza place going, "You're still making pepperoni pizzas? God! Oh, and this one's better than the last one, huh?" Like, we accept that. We go, oh, yeah, that's what they do, right? But as content, we want to see new things. Or, you could do that. You've been successful. You've done this. You've done that. You have the resources. You have the money. But the reality is, you're still stuck in an algorithm. And this is what people don't realize in business. You're a pizza place. No one thinks, ooh, you want Mexican food tonight? Yeah, let's go to the pizza place. No, they think of what's the best Mexican food restaurant, right? Same thing in content. Ooh, yeah, I need to look up the latest thing on this computer. Linus Tech Tips, right? I don't think, ooh, a NASA space launch, instantly, ooh, Linus Tech Tips. And so That's where you might see like, oh, this channel focuses on space travel. They're going to get all the views. YouTube knows this. TikTok knows this. Instagram knows this. Facebook knows this, right? They know that there is crossover. There is 18 million people that are going to watch that thing, but they're not 18 million of your customers. The customers are varied and different, right? And I find this all the time. Like, I don't watch most of Linus Tech Tips videos. I watch the stuff on business, right? So I don't care. I'm not going to watch a NASA launch. I'm just not. I'm also not going to watch a lot of their other stuff, but I do watch the business part, and the algorithm does feed me more business things, which I enjoy. And so I think the other aspect of this is that when you ask a customer, and I'm a customer of plenty of things, what would you do to make this product better? What would you do to change our service? What do you want to see? We actually can't know the answer. It's kind of like players on a football team, players on a basketball team, going, well, what do we need to change to win this? To win the series this year. You actually need a coach who has maybe never played professionally themselves, but they study the game, they analyze it, they're good with interpersonal skills, and they can basically direct that team to help get them there, right? And that's kind of that customer and business relationship of, oh, well, wouldn't it be nice if you did this? Well, yes, but I need another $4 million to launch that avenue because the advertising goes behind it. I have to double up on the crew. I need to get another site to run that. We run those challenges all the time. My accountant on Monday said it the way I say it, and that is, effectively you're running 3 businesses. And I go, yes, I completely agree. You've got the retail store with a crew, and there's stock levels, and there's expansion going on, and there's different tax scenarios, and there's fire marshal walkthroughs, and all the stuff that goes along with owning a retail store location with different types of insurance in case someone was to get hurt because it's a physical space where lots of people visit. You've got all of that going on, right? And then you've got the YouTube business where we're doing stuff online. We need to make content creation. There's 6 people that work on that basically. And, we've got deadlines, we've got schedules, we've got travel, we've got all of these things going on. And then you have the online store business where we're shipping things. We have the warehouse and storage. We have to make products. We have to manufacture them. We have to do all of these things, right? And so it's real easy to go, well, can't you just do another thing? I think it would be successful. They don't realize that as the ship gets big and successful, it's much harder to turn and go in a different direction. And oftentimes when you do, you're going to pay exponentially for it. So in the example of the Linus Tech Tips where they say, we can't make a video on NASA because if it gets 100,000 views, we can't sustain our company with anything less than 1 million. When you look at their channel, they basically don't get less than 1 million views on all the content they do. And so I think a lot of times if people don't make content, they don't understand what would go into it. So something like this video that we're doing right now, you might watch it. Let's say I'm on here for an hour. You go, yeah, that takes an hour. But the reality is like, well, I actually had to do some research. I had to form opinions. I had to get equipment ready. I had to do this. I had to set up this room. Like a lot goes into it more than just an hour, right? And especially on these big collaboration type shoots. We're in the midst of planning one right now. So we're trying to plan one out for August, right? So here we are, month 3, planning for month 8. We're setting up times. We're trying to figure out how many people are we taking, right? So it's myself, Zenzo, Jimmy, possibly Irene, possibly Dean, right? So that's 5 people, 5 hotel rooms. We're also doing an event, so we're going to pair it with an event there, and that's going to mean that we need to drive there. It's 5 hours from the event, so that's another day basically we're going to lose. So at minimum to shoot one location, it's going to take 2 days. One, you kind of got to land, you got to drive there, right? So travel, probably traveling for us, sleeping, driving for 5 hours, prepping, and then we'll shoot that 3rd day. Hopefully get all the footage, get all the interviews, get all the stuff done, get all of that. Then there's another 5 hours, Maybe it's that night, maybe it's the next day, depending on how long shooting goes. So at minimum 4 days. There was also 5 people with 5 plane tickets, right? So all of those costs start going in. On top of, you obviously have their business time of where we're actually going to shoot the video. Then when you get back, you have, editors and other people working on thumbnails and all of these, um, all of these different hours basically to go into it. And so on a shoot like that, we might be into it for, I don't know, $6,000-7,000. And then when it comes out, you're like, oof, 80,000 views. Okay, we got $800 recouped, right? It doesn't make sense at all. So we really have to go in and really try to hit that mark. Because if you don't, and you just knowingly go and make something no one's going to watch, so now you invested thousands and thousands of dollars. And if you knew, you're like, oh, this video we've done it a million times, only gets like $100 worth of money. If you do that too many times in a row, you just go out of business, right? And with like Linus Tech Tips and us, we sell merchandise, they sell merchandise. So some of that gets offset by you spent $7,000, you're only getting $1,200 back from the video, but we also might get another $3,000 or $4,000 from people buying stuff because we're continuing to educate. And it might be that like, a live stream, for instance, on our main channel doesn't take a whole lot of money outlay, but will earn us some money, right? And then we've got memberships, and we've got other ways to pay and not crowdsource, but like build the resources, deploy the resources. Hopefully, after everything is done and all the people have touched it, and it's been a long enough time continuum, we've made money to do it again, right? Customer here, would an Airbnb be more practical than a hotel for each person? Potentially. You have lots of things to run into, like personnel conflicts. Is there going to be at least 5 different bedrooms? Is there at least 5 different showers to get everything done efficiently? Because when you fly with a bunch of people like that, and they all have salaries, well, not all of them, but almost all of them has salaries, right? Time becomes money very quickly. So if there's only 2 showers in this Airbnb and it takes people time to get ready and all of this, and you're actually losing more than if you just paid for the hotels. So there's things to definitely watch out for there. Linus Tech Tips only sells swag though. Yes, but if you're in business, you know that they're doing a lot. Like they're having it made in China. They're doing factory visits. They've brought on clothing designers to do it. They're moving higher end stuff. If you watch the merch drops and the sellout rates, you're seeing that happen very quickly. You can use tools to see that they're on Shopify and what apps they're using and all of this. Like people underestimate how much money starts moving around and things like that. So yes, but so we're going to be, that's a very big thing to plan. And all of that happens with anything, right? So even if it's something down the street, well, how many people got to come? How many cameras? How much time? How much effort? And if you were to get someone to say, we get there and then they go, well, actually can't film any of this, right? You're now telling us how to do a job because we'll be storyboarding before we ever go. And what that means is we're going to like, what's the angle here? So like this one will be the fact that they've had to go through so many hurricanes and the power outage and tell this long story and we're already going to be working on that before we ever show up. And if we were to show up and all of a sudden like, well, we don't want to, that angle's not going to work. That can't work for our business. You now know, oh no, without that angle and all this prep work, we are looking at a video where we're really going to lose money. And yeah, so I also, in the same vein, because I want to keep covering this topic of don't listen to customers and watch what they do instead. So we've talked about that. I have time and time again, I have asked our customers, what is it that you buy on the regular that we don't sell? I bring it in and then people don't buy it. And it's not even like, oh, you just didn't sell more than that guy or girl that said they would buy it. They're not even buying it. That's the crazy part, right? Because they go, well, I grabbed it at Petco. I grabbed, yeah, it's, I'm being distracted by a comment. That's what's going on right now. So Linus Tech Tips kind of created the problem. He does multiple videos where the equipment he buys, thousands in equipment, he invested thousands in Dogecoin on a stream over the top for no reason. I wouldn't say it's for no reason. Everything is kind of another marketing thing. Like that's and it still does not change the premise. Whether Linus Tech Tips has $70 billion or $6 doesn't change that the algorithm is not going to show a NASA video to the people that want to see it on Linus Tech Tips. It's already learned what he does. And so that's the way YouTube works. So much so that if I wanted to take this channel and make it be about bicycles, that would be the worst decision ever. I should start a new channel. It's 50 times easier to take a channel that has no history and give it a history than it is to take a channel that has a history and change the history so that people will watch it. So, sure, unlimited money, you can do anything you want, but most people will never have that unlimited money. And, that Elon Musk money where it's like, oh, we launched our own alcohol, we launched a flamethrower, we launched underwear. Like, those things are, and people don't realize, those are actually marketing dollars. And that happens all the time. So, like, investing in Dogecoin, right? Think about it on a surface level. If the current price of Dogecoin was, let's say it's 30 cents, and you invest $1 million in it, that inherently gets you some kind of headline, some attention, any of that, right? Just like inherently, wow, Linus Tech Tips or other big creator just spent $1 million investing in Dogecoin. You now get attention. And this is what's called in marketing earned media. So you did a thing, and now you're earning free press from it. Now, something with Dogecoin, it's actually genius, right? So it basically, oh, Corey just spent $1 million buying Dogecoin. That's crazy. And then the minute the stream ends, I go, yep, let's sell $1 million and liquidate that back into cash. Ooh, it was down, a fraction of a percent. I only got back $992,000. I now just spent $8,000 though on a crazy good marketing campaign that's going to earn tons and tons and tons of earned media. That kind of stuff happens all the time. In fact, that's the main goal of a lot of advertising agencies, is to focus on how do we get more earned media. Whether it's good or bad, by the way, you can do lots of bad things to get. That's kind of where the like all publicity is good publicity, because that earned media, there's gonna be people that basically will chime in and agree with whatever you're doing. So, yeah. So anyway, back to asking customers what they want and trying to fulfill that. It has never worked out for me. And any business I've watched try it, it has never worked out for them. Now, I read tons of feedback and I reflect on it, and it's not like I never listen to what a customer says ever. It's specifically when they're saying what they want, what they would purchase, what they would buy, what they're longing for, what's the upgrade. Instead, what I've found to be very, very useful is to watch what they're actually doing, right? So someone that says, oh, I would do that in a heartbeat. But do they, right? Like, oh, I'd eat Mexican food every day if I could. But are you? So you're not. Even though you say you would, you don't, right? And it could be, oh, do you have the money? Do you have enough variety? Do you burn out on it? But by watching actual trends of what's going on with your business and going, well, how often are you purchasing? Who might you be purchasing from that's not me, right? You can watch people use other things like, okay, everybody on this bus, are they all on TikTok? Are they all on Instagram? Are they all on YouTube? What are they doing here? And you can learn about them, even though you might ask them, oh, what's your favorite platform? It might be completely different than what they're actually using, because they might hate that they're losing time. They're losing time on Instagram, but it's the one they use the most, right? So studying what your customers do is very impactful in business. both good and bad. They could say like, "I'll support you no matter what you do," but they're not, right? Or "Oh, I would buy a new shirt if you launched a new shirt," and you do, and then you go, "No one's buying it." "Oh, well, when you said that, I thought it was going to be like this," or "I thought," because in their mind, when they're looking for that new shirt, it's going to be perfect in every way. It's going to be the price they wanted. It's going to be free delivery. It's going to be X, Y, and Z, and all of those things can't apply to the same product typically. So, and for every person. So you have to go, well, what are, this person that says they would buy any shirt I ever made, how many of the shirts have they bought that we do make? Oh, they've never bought a shirt. So they're looking for something we already don't do. So we already know that that statement wouldn't be true. Focusing there is, I think the best thing to do, especially if people are critiquing, I would make a pizza this way. I would do this way. Great, go do that. Put me out of business. Instead, I'm going to focus on, okay, 5,000 people ordered pizza this month. What toppings were they ordering? Were they ordering thin crust? Were they ordering normal crust? Were they ordering deep dish? Start looking at what people are actually doing. Oh, a lot of people are ordering kids' pizzas. Maybe we need to lean into that more, right? You need to look at the data to kind of help guide you where you're going to go without getting sidetracked by, oh, well, this person says they would do this, they would do that. Rarely do I find that to work. And if you haven't tried this stuff, it's going to seem counterintuitive of like, but I don't get it. If you're a nerd, you're going to love this too, right? If you're this, you're going to love this. If you like pizza, you're going to like ice cream. If you like ice cream, you're going to like candy bars. If you like candy bars, you're going to like soda. It doesn't always work that way. In fact, most times it doesn't. And so that's where people, they will get into these businesses that make some sense, and then they start diverging and realizing too late that they've gotten away from the core business value and what people are actually doing and consuming, instead catering to what they think would grow them. All right. Reminds me when we have a customer that says, after this job, I have a lot more work for you. People who say it almost never have much more work. A lot of times that's a true statement, and you could say like, oh, did we do a bad job? Or is it, they're just using that statement to get a better deal up front? It's hard to say, right? But yes, everyone has intentions and what they think is what they would do. But there's so many things in the world you don't know what you'll do until you're actually presented with that. Like, oh, I don't know if I'd buy it at that price. If it's at this price, well, okay, but is it for a Christmas present or is it just normal every day, right? There's so many things go into it. Developing a product like making a new shirt design where you can just do pre-orders. Let me digest that. Developing a product isn't like making a new shirt design where you can just do pre-orders. Yeah, and I would, from maybe you run a business, Kyle, but in my opinion, I would never do pre-orders on a product ever. We never have, and probably never will. And developing shirts, it's not it's not like I'm going to develop a car tomorrow and try to tell you that, like, well, starting my own car from scratch is as hard as developing a shirt. But if we were to walk out of my studio, you'd be like, what are all of these shirts? Well, they're different cuts, different prices, different textures, different print quality, different sizes, right? Sometimes we'll run a batch of shirts and be like, oh, the logo's sitting too high. We gotta lower it a little bit. Ooh, that color's not quite right. We gotta change that color in the eyeball of that thing, right? And so there are several revisions and things that go on, even for something as simple as a shirt. At mass scale, too. That's the thing, is it is a little bit easier to do a pre-order when you're like, okay, we're going to make 10 of these things. It's another thing when you go, okay, we did the pre-order, we sold 6,000 of these, we're going to ship them out, there's a problem. Now customer service has 2,000 people who are not happy right now. And as scale keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger, you've got potentially more problems and more money to lose, and it makes more and more sense to be extra thorough. So even seemingly very simple products can take quite a bit of development, and to do correctly. There are print by demand stores and things like that, but the quality of those products are garbage. Like, I'm always disappointed when I see, like, oh, I'd buy that, but oof, you know, I know the quality's gonna be crap. All right. Sarah says, I'm struggling to come up. Oh, wait, I'm struggling now to come up with a product that I would buy on the regular that you don't carry. The only thing I can come up with is frozen food, which doesn't make sense for you to sell. Yeah, and that's my job is actually, in my opinion, to either design a product or find the product that you don't know you need to buy. That's actually what a salesman's job is, to convince you to buy something. Um, and so a lot of times people go, well, I would buy this competing product if you carried it. And it's actually a better strategy to convince them to buy the product you're already selling. And especially, like, I believe normally we have the better product, and that's why we don't carry the lesser product. So it's kind of easy for me to convince, not easy, it's easy for me to believe, like, okay, I just need to convince them to buy the better product here. That's what I need to be doing instead of going, well, maybe we'll go get that product. And we even tried carrying what I consider to be the lesser products, and they didn't sell because we didn't try to push them. We thought they were lesser, um, I've talked to other business people like this too. So it's not just like, well, you've got one store and you're just bad. Like, by all means, maybe I am. That's true. But it's more than just me. I'm not saying everybody. I'm sure there's other businesses that we ask people what they want, they buy everything. Doesn't matter. Great. My wife owns a screen printing shop. There's nothing easy about printing shirts. There really is not. It's a labor intensive industry, very precise, especially getting good actual print quality to it, and the more colors and you know. Do you have, oh, this is a 6 color? Do we even have the machinery to start doing 6 colors and up? Different garments. Yeah, it's, and people don't realize, like, so you might have a massive screen printing facility. Oh, and then you want to embroider. Like, that's a different facility, right? Like, oh, hats are different. Oh, we want to do patches, or do we want to embroider it? Screen printing doesn't look as good. What type of hat do we want to do? Like, if you've ever tried to screen print on a beanie, it doesn't look good. It stretches, right? So you have to embroider it. Then you got to test the embroidery. Like, is it too stiff? Does it feel weird? Like, there's a lot that kind of goes into good product design, I would say. Not that everyone does that, but good product design should be thoroughly tested. And what I actually admire about Linus Tech Tips is a lot of the products they sell, not a lot, there's enough of the products they sell that I hadn't seen before. Like, I kind of think it's genius that they have something called a swacket, which is half sweater, half jacket. When you kind of look at it, you're like, I haven't worn one, so I don't even know if I like them. I'm just saying, like, of YouTubers, right? How many people have a hoodie? Everybody, right? How many people have a swacket, though? Like, almost nobody. And then they have an indoor hoodie, which I thought was like, I was going to buy one last night. I was like, this thing looks awesome. This is exactly what I need because it gets a little cold up here at night. I'm like, yeah, I need a real thin hoodie. And yeah, I want to support these guys, like $40. They were sold out. So I couldn't even buy one. But the fact that it was a much different hoodie build than even the hoodies I sell, right? But you can tell by looking at the products, there is a lot of attention to detail going in there. And there's, I would imagine, lots of revisions before they hit the prime time. Maybe they get them all right every time, but I can't. I bet that, I would bet that the average computer nerd that's very good at making video and doing things like that doesn't hit a grand slam on launching new apparel products every time. And well, in fact, I know they didn't, right? So even though they had this goes to another business story that I was watching the other day. Their designers built their women's products, and they have no Linus Tech Tips logos at all. So imagine, like, for our main brand here, our main brand, Aquarium Co-op, imagine that we have Aquarium Co-op shirts, right? And they've got the full logo on it and everything. And then we make a women's version, except it's the same shirt with no logos at all, right? As a consumer, we kind of go like, yeah, why would I could just go to Target or Walmart and just buy a shirt. It has nothing on it. But the designers kind of miss that, and and even Linus is like, yeah, this is, he didn't sign off on that. He kind of like let them run wild with it, and then it's like, wait, you guys literally made clothing for our consumers with no branding on it. Why would anyone buy it when they could just go somewhere else and buy it? And it's selling terribly, the reviews are bad, and everyone's like, I just want the one with the logo with a more feminine cut for a female. That's like what they want. Um, and that's, again, you could have looked at trends to have established that, right? You can look at and going, okay, well, how many females are actually purchasing from us? You can kind of crowdsource that from the name, right? That doesn't always work, but you can go, okay, how much is female? Even though they only have an 8% demographic of female on YouTube, maybe they have a disproportionate amount of purchasers, right? And then you need to learn about that customer, because in most buying relationships, there's a purchaser and then there's someone who's going to use that product, and it's not always the same. And so maybe what you have is my wife, she's listening right now for Christmas, she remembers, hey, you wanted that indoor hoodie, she's buying it for me. Now that doesn't mean that she's going to want a female version for her down the road, but it would have her name on it and lead to a female buyer. That being said, if I get this hoodie and it's the best thing ever and I won't shut up about it and I talk about it all the time, maybe I'm going to buy one for her birthday, or maybe she'll buy one, right? But what is unanimous basically from their fans is completely unbranded merchandise that's being sold right next to all the branded merchandise is not what anyone wanted. No one thought, yes, sell me that t-shirt with nothing on it. That's what I'm looking for. With the shirt reference, I meant you develop a shirt design. It can be stored on a hard drive, and you can practically do a pre-order and then print them. When you develop a heater, you can't do that. I don't know if that is really any different at all. So like I could run a pre-order and be like, how many people would like to buy heaters? Great, let's run 5,000 of those. I could do a pre-order of shirts. How many people would like to buy those? Great, let's order 2,000 of those. There's different lead times, and you might be like, well, shirts are faster and easier to get done. Are they? Because there's an apparel shortage in America, and we had to choose shirts based on, like for this last event we did, well, who had 3,000 shirts of the same type of shirt in stock of at least a reasonable quality that we wanted to buy at a price we could afford, in what color, right? Because that's all part of what gets dictated. And so that's not always actually easier. So yes, you do have a physical thing sitting on a hard drive, but so is basically a product in China right now, where it's like, hey, you're making this for us, we need X amount more. I basically, there's no product from concept to consumer that isn't pretty darn involved if you're doing it correctly. Like one of the hardest things that happens to be in clothing is getting people to bag them and barcode them and things like that. Like that's one of the hardest things, which is a no-brainer with an actual product. Like, oh yeah, that heater, of course it's going to have product packaging and all of this, but not everybody wants product packaging with a shirt or a sweatshirt, and then you've got different logistical complications. Yeah. Thoughts on Teespring? I think they're absolute garbage, dumpster fire quality. We've sold in the past, and I don't buy anything from myself because the quality is so low on that print-on-demand style shirt that you get a mediocre print, and you can baby it and it still kind of chips off and all of that. And what I don't like about it is the creator doesn't even make that much money, or the business doesn't even make that much money from it. Quality is terrible in comparison to a real screen printer that does a good job. And after all, so you make less money, the quality is bad, so you get worse reviews, and your customer doesn't wear it as long. Like, no one's really winning there except for Teespring, in that they're going to sell shirts that they wouldn't have normally sold because they're getting all the free advertising from the different creators. So that's where we've pretty much always done our stuff in-house and then shipped it out because we can perform the quality control and make sure that, you know, like we've had batches where it's like, great, here's 200 of these. Oh my gosh, the mediums have large barcodes on them. That means we have to rebarcode all of these. Like, there's still stuff that's going to happen, and yeah, it's another product. That's the thing. Is like it's just another product. Each product has its own challenges. Is this one more prone to breakage? Is this one more prone to bad reviews? Is this one more prone, like with clothing, for instance? I'm sure we all experience this. Ooh, do I need this size or this size? You're buying shoes. Ooh, do I do a 10.5 or do I do a 10 wide? Or do I do this or I do that, right? Everything's got unique things about it that you have to navigate that, like with a heater, for instance, as long as it worked, there's not really like a size thing of like, ooh, but, should I get a 10.5 or a 10? It's like, no, it is. So, yeah, everything's got its own set of challenges, and you need to learn each one. That's really what it comes down to. Okie dokie. Italian discus breeder, things went really well, but after Corona took a toll, now the new gas and electricity prices are putting us on our knees. We breed and deliver, and we have a retail store. What would you do to get back on track with this problem? I would pivot and stop doing discus, probably. In general, the way to start thinking about these things. So, if cost of electricity and gas has gone up a lot, you don't live in a vacuum. So if you yourself are going, man, it's hard to maintain this business I'm running, how does your customer feel, right? The store you're selling to. Well, guess what? Shipping costs have gone up for them to get airport shipments in. All their wholesalers having to raise prices, all of this, right? Well, how does their customer feel? The actual end consumer. Oh, well, rent's going up, electricity prices are going up, gas prices went up, so you've got less people visiting the store, you've got them with less disposable income, you've got all of these things going on. So in a spot where your costs are going up, the store's costs are going up, the consumer's costs are going up, and you're selling a product that's already kind of on the high-end tier of those markets, you're one of the first ones to get cut. And so pivoting, right? So imagine you you go from being a Italian discus breeder and all the extra heat and all the extra things you need to run that business, and you pivot, right? So you go, we're not doing pizza anymore because it turns out no one can really afford and is buying pizza as much, right? If they were buying tons of pizza still, by the way, if you're like, man, people are still buying pizza real strong right now, you can raise the price. You go, hey, guess what? Pizza's now $21 instead of $20. And they'll pay it. But if they're not paying it, so like, ooh, people aren't buying at 20, and if we're already selling at 19, we're going to go to 18, and the ingredient price is going up, doesn't make a lot of sense. But what if you can pivot and go, okay, well, instead of discus, we're now going to focus on rare variants of rice fish. We no longer heat the facility at all, right? So cut the electricity bill by 70%, right? You still have delivery, but you may be able to make that pivot. You take a fish that might have sold for, I don't know, 20 euros. I have no idea what the cost where you're selling them. But now you might have a fish that sells for €7, roughly 1/3 the price. It also took you 60% less energy to create it, right? So pivoting to something that is more affordable. And we're doing that too. Maybe we'll talk about that going forward, but we've been working on this for the last couple of weeks on how we're pivoting our business to basically realize inflation and these other things. What does that mean to expendable income for a luxury item or a luxury hobby? And that usually means there's less to spend, right? And they're going to spend less often. And so we need to make sure that can go further for them. How can we make it go further when our stuff now costs more for us to even do. So you have to start getting clever. I can point you to a tactic that's going on. Go to mouseprint.org. So this is part of, I stumbled upon this website in part of my research, actually. And this is a very, very cool website, I find, where it tracks what businesses are doing. And most of the premise is, like, let's take this Monster can here, which, by the way, a couple of years ago used to cost me about $1.10, and I think we paid like $1.80 for these now. But besides the point. So we'll take this can right here. And I think you may have seen the meme or something like that on the internet where they have like a Budweiser can and they have 16 ounces and it's two different sizes. What they're doing is you take a can like this and you change the shape slightly. So it's basically the same size, and like they have a Gatorade bottle. And Gatorade bottles, in the US at least, have been 32-ounce Gatorade bottles for like the end of time, right? And now they're 28 ounces. So the prices don't have to go up as much, but you're getting less, right? And that's what a lot of companies are doing. So we're trying to figure out the same thing. How can we get people what they want without increasing the price, without offering them too much less? We've already leveraged our vendors as far as we can go, right? At a certain point, well, if you buy, there might be a price break. You're buying one shirt, that costs this. You're buying 10 shirts, costs this. You're buying 100 shirts, costs this. You buy 1,000. You buy 5,000. Eventually, you go, well, there's no more discounts. Like, even if you buy 5 million shirts, there's no more discounts up to 5,000. We're already hitting those points where there's no more discounts to be gotten by just by bigger inventory. So now we have to go back to the drawing board and figure out, well, what do we think is going on here? So in my personal opinion, I think the shift, if inflation doesn't correct, will be that people continue to have less disposable incomes, right? Naturally, they'll have less money to spend on the hobby. They'll be more likely to start making decisions of like, I was going to buy a 55-gallon aquarium and now I'm buying a 40-gallon because I save $112. And you extrapolate that all through the category of like, well, maybe I keep a couple of nano tanks instead of a big tank right now because I moved and I'm living in an apartment, or I downsize, I'm living with my parents right now, or whatever the case is going to be, and try to make sure that we stay nimble and we move with the market. The market's always moving, and if you can't move with it, that's where you get squeezed out of it. And so we'll go back to the pizza example, right? We're highly likely to see pizza prices coming down and them taking a less margin and finding maybe the pizzas get a little bit smaller. Their whole goal is to make sure you still order pizza once a week because it's Friday night and you've done it for 12 years. What they don't want to do, the worst thing that they could do, is break that habit where it's like, well, we as a family can no longer afford pizza. We don't do that. That goes on for a year. Economy shifts. Now you've got money, but you replace getting pizza every Friday night with family game night, and you buy a bunch of candy and food and stuff like that from the grocery store, and you guys love it, and now you're never going back to pizza time, right? So that's really what brands are trying to do, is make sure they don't lose the ritual of purchasing that. I've always used that. People become very loyal. You see it in cars all the time. I've always been a Ford person. I've always been a Chevy person. I've always been an X person. When you break that, that's when I used to be a Ford person, but they didn't have the chips, or, I bought, like right now you can buy a Ford and you don't get, my heated seats don't work, this doesn't work. But don't worry, when the chips come in, they'll let me know next year and they'll install them. If you get if you get treated badly in that process, you're not as likely to buy another Ford after that, right? So there's a lot of things that are going on right now that have to be navigated very, very carefully to not really lose long-term customers. All right. I've been running a salad mix company and farm for 2 years. It's pretty interesting. I love that kind of stuff. Like, I've never met somebody running something like that. So there's probably lots to learn in the packaging from that, all kinds of stuff. And what I do love about learning stuff from someone like you, John, is that you'll understand shipping temperatures. You'll understand how long can that thing be unrefrigerated or in too much heat or too much cold, and you can learn some logistics there. No one around here has been doing a microgreen mix. Now everyone has copied the idea, not better, but diluted the market. How to pivot, new products. Yeah, so microgreens, I learned about those in like 2010 maybe, because a guy that I had partnered with to write a blog that was myfishtankgeek.com, who bred lots of shrimp, he pivoted from shrimp that was getting oversaturated to growing lots of microgreens and selling those. Then, following years later, he actually pivoted from that to kind of being marketing and that kind of stuff for the cannabis industry. So, pivoting from salad mix company or a microgreen company, that might be fairly difficult. Well, or the other thing is it's outside of my realm, and so I don't have like a good, from discus fish, which I know pretty well, to another fish. I don't know that industry enough, but from what I do know about microgreens, they're typically pretty expensive, and I'll try to explain a very layman's understanding of microgreens. So imagine you've got this big old chunk of broccoli, right? And it's got 1,000 nutrients in it. Well, if you got that broccoli when it was this big, it had like 800 nutrients in it. Like it as it grows bigger, it just kind of physically gets bigger, but the nutrient count doesn't get that much proportionally bigger. And so you can basically eat small amounts of these microgreens and get crazy good benefits from all the vegetables that you're eating. So you didn't have to eat that much. That being said, it was still like, and I don't know this because I'm not a microgreen grower or even a vegetable grower. I don't know what the time from like seed or cutting to microgreen selling size is in comparison from that size to head of broccoli for $3 size, right? So, so that's what that industry is. I don't know how you necessarily are going to pivot. I think some of it's going to depend on where you are. You might find that with current political climates like war, inflation, all of these things, you might be able to go hyper local. Like if you're in like Oregon, California, New York, Seattle, maybe Colorado, finding some of these places where you could do microgreens at like a farmer's market type of thing, but you could also do full size, right? And what you might find is people leaning into that more of going, yeah, I can go here. There's less shortages of stuff. A great example that I asked my own wife from this past week, we were at Walmart, and I was actually learning a lot at Walmart from merchandising. But we bought a loaf of Italian bread, I guess, right? It was $1, and all the other loaves from like Sara Lee and Dave's Wicked Bread and all these other breads were like $4 to $5 or $6. And the reality is, I think they've saved so much money. One, they want to be like a bottom loss leader, so there is that factor, right? So we'll put that aside. But the fact that transporting a loaf already done this big throughout the country, right? That costs X amount of space and gas and all of that, and that disproportionately right now is hyperinflating. The raw ingredients can be fairly compact, and so that same space that held maybe 30 loaves of bread now holds the 50-pound bag of flour and the salt and the yeast and the other ingredients, right? And that might make 300 loaves, though. And so, one, you can store those ingredients for a much longer time. They've got a longer, shelf life, if you will. They don't have to be trucked in. And so, maybe the real price comparison is like, okay, $2 loaf of bread versus that $4 loaf of bread. But using that kind of hyper locale might be a way that you could pivot your business a little bit. Um, yeah, that's a tough one though because I don't know that industry well enough. It would take more time. Like I'd really have to talk. And go, okay, what about this? Well, what do you know about this? What's that look like for you? Um, but yeah, you got to start thinking. I usually it's a very slow pivot, by the way, because it's usually pretty hard to go. Like if you're making, let's say you're making $10,000 a month, or 100,000. Like pick a number. It's really hard to go from 100,000 in product A to next month 100,000 or even 80,000 in product B by ditching product A. You've got to retool, you need equipment, you have to retrain, you have to build new relationships, and so really the goal will be like you do 100,000. The goal is okay. We only sold 80,000 last month, so we know we're on the decline. How can I make up that 20%? Is there anything else? Can I grow some to larger size? Can I try and strike a deal with HelloFresh or something like that? Or do I go radical here and I go, okay, if microgreens are good for humans, what about reptiles? Is there a way in which I could market to reptile people to go, hey, get your reptiles instead of eating the spinach and this and this and this, get the microgreen version of it for these very high-end reptile breeders or keepers, right? Maybe there's a way in there. But that might cap out like that's only ever going to be 15,000 of 100,000. So it's like that's one niche. We're gonna go there. It's gonna take a while to build that market, but while building that and trying to keep this boat afloat, we also need to get into a farmer's market. We also need to get in to a deal with HelloFresh or Factor 75 or whatever, And I don't know how big, how big is the farm and how much is it doing and all of that, but start diversifying your income sources, I would say. All right. The quality of Dollar Tree items did seem to go up. I bought a glue gun from them for a month ago. Yeah, I do find it hilarious that like Dollar Tree, at least in our area, is now called Dollar Plus, right? And that happened. I saw that in an article like last year sometime. That's really when I started really cluing in on this of like, okay, at the point where you have to change your business name really means there's no other way for them because that's a huge shift from dollar store to dollar plus. That's a huge shift. That's going from pizza to Mexican food. That's a huge shift, at least here, because the dollar stores here they were literally only $1, where in other parts of the country I've seen lots of Dollar Save or whatever, and they would have stuff more than $1. But here locally, it was literally only $1, and to make that change and have to change branding and signs and all of this, that really meant it could not sustain longer in that model. And I don't know. We'll have to see. Do they keep cropping up? Do they actually do better now that inflation? We'll have to see. John said, I thought about growing cat grass. Good idea on the pet pivot. Everything harvested within 24 hours of being on shelves. Thinking about microgreen adjacent products as well. Yeah, I mean, the more you learn about a business, the more you can go, okay, so with that level of distribution and this going on, I wonder if this is going to make some sense. I wonder if that's going to make some sense. And nothing's easy because you also don't want it to be easy. I don't talk about this enough. I talk about it in business meetings, which I have one later today. I don't want it to be easy. If it's easy for someone else to come in and do the same thing and maybe do it better. If it's really difficult to set something up and work out that deal and get all of that stuff done, the barrier of entry is much higher for those competitors as well. And so I really like it. So like us shipping internationally, we've been having just a bear of a time, right? And we've got very smart people working on it. We're paying absurd amounts of money to get there, and we're doing all the things. And so I know I'll be able to judge others based on are they able to pull that off, And if they say like we're going to start shipping online internationally, And then 2 weeks later, they are. I'm going, whoa, these guys are way bigger and better than I thought because we're pretty good. But then I see most of our big competitors, they don't. They kind of do like, well, yeah, you can order from us. We'll ship it anywhere in the world. But if it's not going to cost you an arm and a leg, we're not really doing it. Like they put up as many barriers to entry as they can so that they can say they do it while only, fulfilling very few. Dollar Tree still exists here. Wait, see. But the leaves off that tree are not $1 anymore. Yeah. People always say they want to, grow aquatic plants for us. We're a pretty tough customer just because we demand a lot and we demand perfection. We also pay a lot for that perfection. And that's part of figuring out what level are you at, right? Like, I want to start growing aquatic plants. I can make 100 a week. Like, we order, I don't even know what it is right now. I wouldn't be shocked if I asked them, like, we're ordering 6,000 different potted plants. Not different, but 6,000 plants every week, right? And so if we're looking at 24,000 plants in a month, someone who's making 100, it's kind of not even worth like, you let me know when you get to like 4,000 and then it's worth talking, right? So you kind of got to know where are you at in the market. You might even have to supply competitors to us, and then knowing one day like, I just want to work with them because we pay more. Like most of the plants, we will pay for premium pricing from the farms, and the first thing we do is like, hey, you're not keeping up with how much we sell. Can we pay more? No, you don't need to pay more. Like, well, but you got to do something because you don't have enough of them. You say you have enough staff, you say this, you say that, but you don't have enough, and you keep saying, and this might be a 6 or 8 month process of like, don't worry, we need a couple months, we'll be ready. And then a couple months, we'll be ready. A couple months, we'll be ready. And this goes on for years, Um, yeah. When it comes to a cost to benefit in the current situation, sometimes it makes sense for customers to have it delivered. As a result, shipping goes up. How do you control the cost long term? I'm not sure about that. I was telling my wife this week. We live in a place that not a lot of places will deliver to, honestly, because we're kind of out of the way. And but I was like, honestly, it might be better for the environment to have more things delivered. And what I mean by that is we're kind of remote, and we got to drive and drive and drive and drive. We get to a store, we buy what we want. We go to another store, we buy what we want. We come home. That being said, if we're having it delivered by let's just say Uber delivery type service, right? And it's groceries and it's well, yeah, like one of the things that they said they'd deliver, well, they say to deliver, they probably wouldn't deliver to me, but like this aquarium on my desk, they would actually deliver it to me, and they were going to make it cheaper than if I went into the store. But I was like, I don't know, I kind of want to see it in person. But if enough people are doing that in a community, it actually becomes more efficient, kind of like maybe an Amazon delivery. Like, I hit this house, this house, this house, this house, this house, this house. In a way, it's kind of like everyone in the neighborhood carpools, goes to the couple stores they need to, and then goes home. But yeah, it gets it. You also, in times where economic things are extra hard, you might run into someone who wrecks their car and can't buy a new one. Someone who can't afford insurance anymore. Someone where gas prices is literally like, here might be a great example. Let's say there's a fish I want, but the only store that has it is 4 hours away. And the cost of me driving there, so 4 hours, right, it's 240 miles. Let's say my car gets 30 miles a gallon, right? And so 3 goes into 26, 8 times. That's 8 gallons of gas each way. That's 16 gallons of gas. We're going to make it easy math at $5 a gallon. That's $80. Or, oh man, they'll ship it to my house overnight even for $46. I actually save money that way. So yeah, it definitely can be where shipping becomes either the only mode because you've lost another mode of transportation, or it actually starts making more sense. And that gets really dicey though when like COVID did that, where all of a sudden everyone's like, "Great, ship it to me. I don't want to leave my house anymore." So prices for shipping started going through the roof, and made it a lot harder on businesses. And we had to figure out, well, where can we cut costs? Where can we make this up? Because at the end of the day, it's always, someone's out there to make some money, because no one's going to work crazy hard for nothing. And two, how do you keep the customer happy? And then it's all these other variables. Well, do we turn does the Gatorade go from 32 ounces to 28? Does it, do we get to squeeze our manufacturer and go, hey, we'll buy 50,000 widgets instead of 5,000 and we get a better price? Do we move production, right? Yeah, it's there was another like political comment, which I'm not big into politics, and I was going to do a whole stream about that. In that, basically, the comment was something to the effect of like, it must be hard to be in business under Biden, right? And then pick another president, like it must, Trump and Bush and Clinton. In my opinion, whatever politics are doing is, in my opinion, like zero impact on running a business, which is a very foolish way to say that, because obviously they can do things. Like there's a bill right now that could hurt my business pretty bad, the Lacey Act, where, we can't sell fish anymore, right? And the hobby dies. The problem is I can't really focus on that and make a change. I can try. Or I can go, well, what could I prepare my business for? Could I sell dogs and cats? Maybe that's going to go better. And what I wanted to outline was, people say this one person was saying, it was so much worse under Biden running a business, and because of inflation, right? And my response to that is, well, honestly, it was a lot worse under the previous administration. The China tariff, for me, everything instantly cost 25% more overnight. 25% more. Whereas like inflation, this is slowly creeping up, and like, yeah, okay, the numbers are getting bigger, but we're still not at 25%. And to me, so long as everybody's roughly having to play by the same standards, that's all I really care about. We're playing a game, and you change the rules a little bit. They can change tax law, they can change tariffs, they can change gas prices, they can change, we have things like worker rights changing, right? We have different medical leave acts. We have all these things that are always changing, right? And part of being a business owner is knowing that you're playing the game, going, okay, well, we all got to play by this rule now. Great. Here's how I'm going to play that rule to hopefully my company's advantage as the best we can. And if it's really detrimental, how are we going to get around that? And every administration that I've been in business or worked for someone in business, there's always another challenge of like, there's another thing sometimes it's good for us, sometimes it's bad for us, sometimes it's unfair. You keep moving through it though, going, okay, well, that's what we're dealing with right now. That might become the new norm. That might be temporary. We've had things that like the latest thing in Washington, for instance, was it was like a medical, I don't know what it was called, but we basically had to start charging all of our employees like 0.5% or something, and then they'd have long-term care disability, I think, in Washington State. But if you moved out of Washington State, you were screwed, which is kind of crappy, honestly. But you didn't have an option. However, it got repealed. So, we had meetings on it. What are we going to do? We got to educate the people. So, because if you take away people's money at work, they're not happy, right? You go, hey, my paycheck used to say this number, now it says less. What's going on? Why didn't someone tell me, right? So you have meetings on how you're going to let people know, and you're going to educate them and things like that. You do all this stuff, and then they repeal it. And so there's always stuff kind of moving in that world. And you pretty much just have to look at it. Like another huge one for business was taxing online. That's still a huge one. Still working at it every day. And That's just the way business goes. You have to basically roll with those punches, and the better you can facilitate that, the more you're going to keep up. And there's a lot of businesses that don't keep up. They're just like, we were in our heyday, business owner checks out, and then you look at them in 7, 8 years later, and like, how have you fallen from grace? Like, oh well, you didn't do X, Y, and Z. You didn't account for these factors. You just didn't, do things to change supply sources. Quality went down. Other companies you relied on got bought out. Whatever it is. Still don't like the inflation caused by printing of the money they did. No one says you have to like it. There's plenty of things that happen every day where I'm like, oh, I don't like that. Like, but the reality is, think of like politics and stuff like that as like they're the referee. No one likes the referee. No one likes, you like them when you're like, oh, yeah, all right, that helps me out. But like the next call, you're like, yep, that's that one. That one's not good for me, right? So no one really likes the referee, but at the same time, y'all got to play by those rules. Like that's just the way we have to play this game. So once you can kind of get past that a little bit and go, okay, the rules are changing, change my business to those rules. Rules change again, change my business to those rules. The faster and the better you get at doing that, the better your business will do. And that's why so often you can see giant companies bring in other high-paid CEOs and they can turn a company around. They can also run into the ground, but the more you're used to dealing with changes, the more you can get in and deal with changes, where you can find stagnant companies that aren't used to it and right the ship. If I sold Aquarium Co-op and retired, what do you think the odds it would continue down the path you have it on? I see businesses that change hands and fall apart. It's a hard question to answer. And does it say I sell it or just retire? If I sold it, I think it would totally change. Most times, like, I get emails fairly often by investment groups that want to buy Aquarium Co-op. I have no idea what they would pay. Never entertained the idea. But I've watched competitors be bought out. Even some that we still compete against right now, and they buy majority stakes. And they start making changes. The goal with an acquisition like that is to make changes to make them more profitable without losing the customers, which is a very fine line to be walking and very hard to do, I would think. So one of the changes they might make, and even we're thinking about making, is what if we shipped products slower where we could, right? That would save us a lot of money because we spent $1.8 million on shipping last year. But will that mean people go to Amazon more often? Will that mean, what's the trade-off there? There's all these little micro decisions of like, inherently this isn't wrong, but is it right? And some of it's messaging, some of it's going, hey, we're going to ship stuff slower, but I made all of our products cheaper and I passed the savings on to you. Or I split the savings with you guys. So we make 5 cents more when we ship that, but you save 5 cents more also, right? I think if we sold and someone else took over, it's very hard to keep up the original. Because imagine, let's say they had all the business stuff handled. What are the odds that someone like me at the very top, I could literally go, we're doing this tomorrow and no one can stop me. And that might be developing a product. It might be giving up a product. It might be getting into microgreens, right? The minute you have a board of directors and you have investment groups and you have things like that, chances are they don't have one person at the top that wants to develop products and has the knowledge to develop those products and has relationships they built up over years, and they have a good in front of camera persona and all of these things. And so inherently, I don't know if it would fall apart. It would probably fall apart in the realm of, would it look nearly as good as it does right now? Probably not. Would it still be a profitable business though? Probably. And I think it would be easier to maybe sell off like a retail store and keep it profitable than it would be like the YouTube part of it, for instance. Yeah. Am I in a yurt somewhere? Yes, the yurt's on the top of my house. I call it it's my expansion yurt. Need another office. Let's see here. Can I point you to the best aquatic plant farm, in my opinion? Uh, what is one of their actual names? I can't think of, because they're always like, it's always like in a different language. But I'd be looking into Thai and Singapore are the countries that really, if you're really going to get into plants and you're going to be buying, a few $100,000 a year, that's where you'd go. The biggest one, the one that I can't even afford to buy from yet, the biggest of the biggest is Siam. Um, and I remember at the time of looking, when I could not afford it. Now we might be able to afford it. Well, we can afford the actual the orders. We just can't afford to put it anywhere. At the time, which would have been like 10 years ago, like things that we sell for like $10 right now, before shipping we'd be paying 25 cents. But the minimum order was 5,000, so it's 40,000 potted plants. And we're at a point now where we do maybe we're doing what, 30,000, 25,000, depending on time of year. So we need a facility that's still like twice as big as we are now to even get that order, and they want that order weekly. And on top of that, shipping would be expensive. I'm sure their costs have gone up since then. Um, so then you get like maybe other farms are buying from Siam, and then they're breaking it down. They're allowing you to order from them, but you can order from them at like, well, you only got to spend like $2,000 or $3,000 at a time. And then the people they're buying from, like some of the Florida fish farms, you might only have to spend like 300 or 400 or 500 bucks, right? But now all of a sudden, that plant that was 25 cents at that way, way, way back in the chain is now $2, right? Because you had to like ship it and grow it a little more and touch it again and touch it again and touch it again and touch it again and then ship it to you. You paid shipping on top of the $2. And so a lot of answers in business, it really depends on where you at in business. Because I guarantee, like, if someone was like, wow, I want to start manufacturing my own cars, like, could someone tell me where, like, where do I start? And someone goes, okay, well, here's where this car part is made, and the minimum to get started is 400 million revenue a year. That is a useless lead to you because you're like, great, I need to be way lower than that, but put that in the back of the brain because 20 years from now, that's who I need, right? And we've been doing that for many years. Of we will find something like, oof, way too big for us right now, but if we ever grow to that level, we got an in. We can start talking to them. At least go, remember when we were much smaller and it didn't make sense? Well, here we are. Maybe it makes sense now. You pay for LTD? I work for a company with 50,000 employees, and we have to pay all of it. They don't pay a portion. We pay, so it might not be long. It's like it's a long-term care thing that Washington was trying to pass, where it was like you just got some money every month after the age of like 50 or something. It's this weird thing. But in terms of like what we do for our employees, we pay the first $1,000 for each family that works for us. So that usually means we'll pay for you, pay for your spouse, and most of your first kid. And that's every month, $1,000 every month. So, and we have very good coverage too. I think legally you have to pay your own. There's one of them that we can't pay. It might be long-term disability, but we also pay dental and vision and a few other things. But there's one that like literally they're like, if we pay for it, they don't get the benefit if they were to like have a problem. We're like, okay, well you have to pay the $6 or whatever it is every month. I guess I shouldn't say have to. We're not paying it because they won't get the benefit. No one has to partake in the benefits if they don't want to. Maybe my wife will surprise me. Well, it's too soon for my birthday. My birthday's next month, but maybe for Christmas I'll get a long-haired Chihuahua. I am terrified though that like all of our Chihuahuas have been, or dogs have been so good. Like what if we like have to, well, not have to. What if we either adopt a dog or buy a dog or whatever that looks like, and it's just like the newest hell spawn? Like, dang it. A little easier when you adopt, because then you're like, well, we take it back to the adoption thing and be like, this one's not working out. Not a good thing. If you can, who would you recommend going through for stock investment? So me personally, I dabble very little in my own apps and stock investing. I use Edward Jones. That's who we use for our retirement, and then my own personal investment. I've known him. He was a friend of mine, a gamer friend of mine since our 20s, and I was on the phone with him yesterday, and we changed our investment strategy and things like that. And my personal philosophy, and I've watched a little bit of YouTube on, let's say Warren Buffett, let's say Charlie Munger, let's some other people, and the strategy I've determined for myself is that my time is much better spent working on my business or career than it is trying to game the stock market system. So people all the time will go like, okay, well, you'd be doing better than everybody if you can get a 15% return year after year after year after year. And you'll meet these people like, I got 20% returns, bro. Like, whoa, oh man, how much you in for? Well, $2,000. Like, all right, so you got 20%, you made $400, and you watch the market, you got up for the market every day, and you gamed the system, and you did all of those things. Why didn't you just get a minimum wage job? You beat that by $20,000, right? So my philosophy is focus on things that I'm already good at in my life. Try to maximize the returns there. Put them into what I consider to be diversified, safe investments in stock that hopefully over a long enough time will appreciate. And if they don't, that's fine too. I am an anomaly that I focus on paying off my house and stuff before investing too heavy. I mean, I do both, right? Like this house isn't paid off. But I don't min-max that. I try to go, what's the least amount of mental stress and agony and all of this, and focus on my other stress, which is my businesses and things like that. And basically the mantra or the takeaway from a lot of these people that I buy into is buy stock in yourself, essentially, like putting money back into my business, putting money back into my education, putting money back into my health, right? That's why I have a personal trainer. I worked out today. There's things like this. I think actually pay very good dividends. And then if you're mastering, your whatever your career is or your work, you're mastering kind of your home life and taking care of yourself. And then if there's money left over, out after normal investing, and what I mean by that is you should probably always be saving some for retirement, and maybe that's 3 to 10% or something like that. Make sure you utilize free money. Like we offer employee match of 3% to all our employees, so I always recommend you probably want at least a 3% raise for free, so do that 3%. And then after that, take care of a lot of these other things. Make sure you have a reliable vehicle, make sure you have the right clothing, make sure you're eating right, all of these things, because you don't want to end up I didn't take care of myself at all, and I died at the age of 62, and I would have been rich, but killed myself with all the stress or neglect or whatever, right? A good example of that might be the braces I'm wearing right now. $7,000 investment in myself that, yes, could have went into the stock market. Maybe I picked the right thing, and maybe it's worth $70,000 when I go to retire, but what's it worth to save time brushing my teeth? It's a real pain in the butt to brush my teeth when your teeth aren't straight. And I actually monetize that time. So it's not just oh, I got 4 more minutes in front of the TV. It's 4 more minutes answering a business email that usually will make more money. So, yeah. Katie says Corey also puts money back in his employees. I do. Yeah. Everybody this year at my company got a cost of living increase of $2 an hour. So that was based on our entry level wages was $20. I wanted to do a 10% to help with inflation. So they went to 22. People that were making more than that, it wasn't straight 10% for them, but I didn't have to, but that's easy math for me to go, look, everybody gets this. and I can move on and work on making more money, because we still have problems, right? Like cost is going up on every front, but I realize that's going up for my consumer, right? Or at least my partners in crime here, and that's my employees. And then there's still going to be annual reviews and raises and all of those, like that. You still have the ability to get more money than just the thing, because I want it so that people work hard and they're taken care of, and we do as much as we can, and not just I lost in the stock market because I made a bad investment. That'd be bad. Don't know which talks you enjoy, or wait, I enjoy more, your business talks or the fish hobby. I personally enjoy business more because it's a smaller setting, and I don't have 1,000+ business videos where I do have that many fish videos. I definitely still like both. I always have and probably always will. Um, but yeah, this one is also much more laid back, and not like, I don't have to look at this and go, oof, we only got 200 views. We didn't get the 30,000 I needed, right? I also, in this, don't have to pitch you guys anything, where people forget on my other channel, it is my literal job to make sure I market our products. Like, sometimes people are like, you're just trying to sell us that. And I'm like, this YouTube channel literally would not exist if I wasn't trying to sell you something. That's the only reason I'm here. We're so good at our jobs. We provide so much content for free that is fairly non-invasive marketing wise, that people forget that this is an asset that is free, but we're going to market to you. That's the reality of the situation for us. My company hasn't given raises in 2 years or matched our 401k. Yeah, we definitely were, I would say, more cautious over COVID. We still increased. Anyone that was doing a good job still got increases, right? But it was a very stressful couple of years for me. Like, I'm surprised I'm not all gray yet, but um, and it's not getting much easier either. But it's not getting easier for our employees also. So I'm smart enough to know that if you don't take care of your employees, business also just gets harder. Oh, less people want to work here, right? And we're seeing that all across the world. Well, maybe not the world, but at least the country. People are having a hard time hiring people. And what I see is, I see a big disparity in, let's say you could get away with paying someone $12 an hour 3 years ago, and now you got to pay them 18. Pick a number, right? Like, the number's clearly larger, and it's big enough large to cause a problem. And what I know is those big jumps, right? So if all of a sudden your payroll jumps by 25 or 50%, you have a very short amount of time to figure that out in your business to not go out of business. And so it's actually easier, I think, as a business to keep giving your people money. And so as you figure something out this year, okay, we figured out we're saving 10% now. Give 5% of that back to the employees, so that you don't end up like, well, they didn't quit. So now you're 5 years later, though, and they're still at $12 an hour, and now they're going to quit unless they get 18. But you figured out how to spend that 10% savings to launch this product over here, and do this thing over here, and do this thing over here, and do this thing over here. And no longer is it in like a liquid state to actually hand out to employees. And so we actually did that twice over COVID, or at least these last years. We did. So it used to be everybody, we started everybody at 18. We jumped to 20, I think, in 2020. So someone that gets hired in 2020, first day on the job, you get $20 an hour. And then this year, we went to $22. The minute you start working for us, $22, the minimum anyone makes per hour in our company. And also, by the way, I'll mention this just so there's not like, well, I bet he screwed him on this way. Anyone that had already been working for us at least a year made more than that. So if you had worked, if you had worked for us for a year, so we hired you on, let's say in 2019, you're making $18 an hour. And then now it's 2020, and let's say we gave you like, yeah, you're really good. You make $19 an hour. When we upped it to $20 an hour, that person now made $21 an hour. So we actually add $2 and not just like, well, you're just up to the bare minimum now. We don't want you to feel like you worked hard for us for a year and you're just as good as the person that started working today, right? You have a year's worth of experience over other people. And so people that were working for us for 3 and 4 years, all of a sudden they instantly went to like, oh, you're at 23 or 24. Even though you might have been at less before, let's get you there. So yeah. The minimum wage here is $7.25, and people wonder why no one takes the low-paying jobs. Yeah, I think there's like what people actually will work for, and then there's like what's on paper, and like Washington's been this way for a long time. On paper, like when I first opened my business, I want to say on paper minimum wage was like $11.25, but no one would work for me for that. And then like I think on paper right now it's $15 an hour, but it's really hard to find someone. Not really hard. I shouldn't say really hard, but it's your pool of candidates who will work for $15 is pretty small. Yeah, and when we like to hire, or at least like to think we hire, higher quality candidates, people that want to work harder, that hopefully we'll see over time that, as long as we can do a good job, it'll always be a good job, right? And what I mean by that is like, if $22 starting wage right now is pretty good, and I think it is, that in 20 years from now, if the starting good wage is $40 an hour due to inflation, hopefully we're still going to, okay, well, we pay $40 to starting wage, and then people that have been around for a long time are making much more, right? It's my job so someone said earlier, as a leader, to try and make sure that we can facilitate that whole journey. And not just go, well, yep, because it wouldn't do any good if we started people at $22 an hour. And if you work here for 10 years, you're still making $22 an hour. Like, that doesn't work either. You have to have people be able to progress because, you want, as people progress, maybe you're 20 right now, but at 30, you're thinking about having a kid. You're thinking about buying a home. You're thinking about doing these things. And 22 probably doesn't facilitate that anymore. But from 20 to 30, hopefully you've been gaining skills in our business and getting better, and maybe you're stepping up and you're becoming some kind of management, or maybe you've taken on a role like a inventory specialist, or maybe you're an assistant manager, or maybe, because at some point, an entry-level job does have a cap, right? You can't have someone who started at 18 years old packing boxes, and now they're 88 years old, and they're still packing those boxes, but they make $92 an hour. Like, well, okay, 18 to 88, 70 years. You can't have, it's $92. You can't have them making $92 an hour because they literally would cost more than they could put back. And that's a business that can't work, right? If it costs $5 to make this can and we sell it for $1, we just go out of business. So there is some caps that have to exist at some levels to make sure a business stays relevant. And if you can't get past that, it might mean that there's a career change that you need to make, because maybe I'm not a very good can maker, right? I can do that minimal level can. I make $25 an hour or whatever it is, but to make it to the can quality assurance checker, they make $30 an hour. But you got to have these sets of skills. If you don't learn those sets of skills, maybe you got to pivot and you go, oh, I plant trees outside. I'm really good at that. I make $30 as the main tree planter, or whatever it's going to be, right? So, yeah. Nice. Kyle got a 23% raise, the largest raise in our company's history. Well done. That's always good. Yeah. I could see, I'm trying to think if I could see us in a realm where we offer that to somebody. I don't think so, because on one hand, I feel like to be able to give that big of a raise, it means that I didn't hire the person on at a salary that made sense. Every once in a while, there's like, who knew? You were the can maker, and a year later, you should have been the director of operations, and maybe they, title change and all that, and like, whoosh, way different. But to go from, like your can maker to still a can maker and 23% more, it's like, oof, maybe we hired under the poverty level and we had to correct for that. Or maybe we're feeling very, very generous and really jumping up there. Have I watched the Joe Rogan Mr. Beast interview? Not all of it. I've only seen the YouTube clips of it. Yeah, I'm trying. There was something I was like, yeah, I should talk about that part of the business. I don't remember what it is off the top of my head. Um, I think one of the best things he said talks about 10,000 hours being good at something, and the fact that he's like, is he 23 or something right now? He's something like that. And one of the best quotes I think from at least what I had seen um, is that by the age of 23, he had 10 years at his career. So what does that mean? It means he became a YouTuber at 13. He's worked on being a YouTuber, and at 23 is still that, but he's got 10 years of experience under his belt. And his point was, most people don't enter into what they consider to be a career type level job until they're like 23, right? So you might do high school, you might do college, and you're out of college, and you're like, hey, I'm an X, whatever that is. You're now starting your 10-year like career journey at 23, and at 33, now you're kind of up. You're up at that pay scale, and that's where that like, yep, need to raise a family, need to buy a house, and that's where a lot of these things start clicking for a lot of people in the world, or at least in America. I don't know of the world because I don't know their economies enough, but in America, a lot of times that early 30s, definitely there's psychological changes, there's just relationship changes. Most people, now they're dating someone that lives, you kind of settle down. So, like, okay, it's not just like a college, boyfriend, girlfriend scenario. And like, now you got to go back to where you came from. And you're really just starting to set up life. And you're at that 10-year mark where if you've done reasonably well in your career and you've applied yourself, hopefully you're doing better than when you started. But I think it was very important for people to realize that, yes, he's 23, and but he's got 10 years in a career. Like, and most people that are 10 years in a career that try their absolute hardest and truly try their absolute hardest, not just like, I work hard. Like, you really are putting in extra time, doing extracurricular learning and all of that to, know the trajectory of, maybe at 13, or, maybe year one, you're an apprentice plumber. Year two, you're just like the lowest rung on the totem pole. Year two, you're certified in some HVAC stuff now, and some new leading technologies. In year three, you're now one of the lead techs at this plumbing company, right? Year four, you hop to a different company. You're now doing commercial HVAC installs and other stuff as an apprentice, right? And I don't know this trajectory, so you could be going, you make less money doing this and that. But the point remains, you keep moving through it, and at the end of this 10 years, you're like, oh, I lead a crew of 17 different plumbers or HVAC people. I get paid accordingly, and in another 10 years, maybe I've started my own company, or I am just the guy that's being paid to run this entire company, while the person above me manages risk like HR issues, lawyers, insurance things like, what do you mean the truck tipped over, landed on this, did that, and someone had to have enough cash to cover that so the business didn't go down while we fought it, all that kind of stuff. And I think there's not enough thought to the person that sits way at the top. There can be a lot of risk there because everyone below you has the potential of costing you a lot of money. You have a lot of insurance policies. You have all of these things, and so sometimes it's just going, oh, we've had times where we scale past what an insurance is willing to cover us for, right? So you go, well, You've now outscaled what we're comfortable being able to pay out if something was to go horribly wrong. You need to move up to this insurance. And so we have to switch companies, and that takes time. And you have, when's this going to end? You have to request back, back fees you've already paid. And, we had to switch, but now you don't do vehicles. Okay, we got to get vehicles done under this company now. Like, there's a lot of stuff that you got to chase down a lot of times. And so even though they're not working in that business like at all day to day, they could be doing a ton of that kind of stuff. All right, soonish I'm gonna call this because I gotta get in the car in about 20 minutes. Am I having any struggles in web development for the co-op? Yeah, I would say so. The hardest part is I haven't found a team or a person that clicks with our style yet. We move very quickly. We will spend a lot of money. We want great communication. We want a good skill set. And I feel like I can get 2 out of 3 is what I've been able to attain so far. We've got a new company coming on. They're supposed to, I don't know, I think get me a game plan of what they think they're going to be able to do for me on Friday, or maybe they're just having a meeting on Friday and they'll get it to me after. But yeah, I mean, part of it is we've got projects on it that no one else has done, like the YouTube integration, right? And that's a real hassle because YouTube hasn't done it yet. And so that means waiting on them and talking back and forth. And you said to do it this way. Turns out that's broken. Oh, that's on this version. You don't have access to this version yet. But yeah, it's been a pain. And, I know where I want to go. And I spend a lot of time on that. And, I fight a lot with, do I just say screw it and do this myself? But then I can't develop a product. And then I can't be on the live stream. And I can't do this. And I can't do that. Or do I just got to keep looking? I just got to find the person that can do that for me, or a company that can do that for me. So yeah, it's not the easiest, or at least I hope it will be. Like I've got so many good people in so many roles here at Aquarium Co-op that I just wish I had these people that I could just pass it off, rely on. They're going to do amazing. I need that in like the tech world a little bit. I need that in the email world. I need that in, there's probably like another one I need that in. But so many of them, we have found absolute rock stars. And so when you have a team, let's say you've got like 10 positions and 7 out of 10 are just amazing. Wow, can't believe we were so lucky to get people that are this good in this role. And then you've got the other 3 where you're like, oh, they're not as good as that, right? Like clearly, like like if this person's level of understanding, if they knew the website, wow, they'd be treated way differently than this team of people that we're paying is, and so much so, like one of the years, I want to say it was in 2019, maybe 2020. We spent something like $270,000 to that web development team. We did not get that kind of level of output. So, yeah. So we spent lots of money. We've been chasing the right people, but haven't plugged that aspect in correctly yet. Not that it's terrible, by the way. I don't want to make it seem like, whenever we talk about something, that seems like an all or nothing thing. But maybe they're a 7 out of 10. And the people we have in a lot of our other positions are 11. Like they're 11 out of 10. Like they're just, wow, cannot believe they're even better than I even. That's the best thing, by the way, in a business and when you own a company. When you bring someone in and they literally can do the job so well, you weren't even aware you could go that far and do that much with that thing. I was like, wow, I didn't, what I wanted you to get us to here. I didn't even know enough to know that where we were going is actually way over there. And it's really nice when you make that hire and you go that far. And so that's where when, you get a 7 out of 10, you're like, yeah, they're not blowing my mind though. Never thought. I never even considered that. That's amazing. Wow, we're here. We're so much further ahead. So that's what I'm looking for. I just raised my prices at my shop. It's been years. No one has complained, and they even wondered why it's been so long. Yeah, there's books, and I just ordered another book for myself, actually. What did I order? That might be an interesting thing. I don't think I'm ever going to be the guy that talks about, like, let's do a book review. But I do like reading books, and I can surmise cool little pieces I take out of books. I guess it would be something I would do. The book I ordered was the book called Priceless: The Myth of Fair Value and How to Take Advantage of It. I've read quite a few books on merchandising and pricing and things like that, and this is one that I hadn't read yet. And oh, dang it! Did I buy the paperback? I meant to buy the hardback. No, I bought the hardback. Okay. Phew. I hate when I accidentally click the wrong button. So it's $14.75 for a hardcover version, or it was $12.77 for the paperback. And in my opinion, the $2 difference really matters of keeping it not getting all beat up, and then I can hand that off to someone if like, hey, you need to read this too. Where when you kind of hand a paperback that's already been read, it's kind of like, oof, that thing's used. So I try to get the hardbacks when it's only a couple bucks. Sometimes it's like $40 more. Like, nah, I'm good. Info's the same. Oh yeah, but anyway, where I was going with that is there is so small business owners. One of the worst offenses they do is they underprice products, and it's because they don't fully understand the scope of what their product is worth, what someone would be willing to pay. They also base let's one of my best examples I have is like we're gonna launch lights and heaters and things like that for aquariums and CO2 regulators and some technical expensive stuff. You can buy that same product on Amazon. Let's say we're the same price, right? We're both $100. But what should be going on is we should be pricing ourselves at $110. The reason being, when you have a problem, we are going to get you in contact with a human that knows about that product within like 4 or 5 hours. We're going to be troubleshooting and either getting you back online and it working that day, or we're setting up a reship that day that'll be there in like a couple of days. And with Amazon, and let me back that up, and most of our products are at least a year warranty, right? Whereas Amazon, same product, or very similar, let's say it's a very similar competing product, $100, you only really have a 30-day warranty though. After 30 days, talk to the manufacturer, and the manufacturer might be like, crickets, you get nothing back, right? Also, if something's going wrong, you don't have the same like, no, I just need one shoelace. Like, you ship me 2 shoes and one of the shoelaces is broken. Nope, I need to package it all back up, ship it all back, or send you a new pair, right? And you might be going, but you're sold out. You don't have the size I need. I need a 10.5. You only have 10s or 11s. Well, sorry, ship it all back. And you're like, but just send me a shoelace. Just send me a shoe. I just need a shoelace. Nope, can't do that. So that experience is actually like worse. And that's one of the reasons why small businesses, if they're running right and everything, should be charging more for the service because you actually are going to give a better experience, better warranty, solve problems better. And in the thing of like all the time, we might sell. Imagine you buy a new TV, and you're like, man, this thing just does not work. It's remote. It's broken. No matter what I do, you finally get in contact with customer service, and they're like here, I got a remote right here. They're like, did you pull out the little tab with the battery? And you go, I don't have one of those. Oh, okay. Well, open up. Oh, you know what? It was under the thing. And then you're working that day. Like, boom. Easy, right? You don't get that through Amazon. Amazon's going to be like, it doesn't work, huh? Yep, we're going to set up an RMA. You're going to go ahead and package that TV back up. I'm going to need you to drop it off at a UPS facility within 7 days. We're going to credit your account. We're going to ship a new one out that's going to have the exact same problem because they're going to put that tag in the exact same place, right? You have all of that crap. So, yeah. And it's not to say that you should be like, well, we're going to charge $1,000 when it's $100. Like you just have to price the customer service level and the other things you bring to the table, like maybe a longer warranty. Maybe your product is a little better. Maybe it's organically sourced. Maybe it's handmade. Maybe, but usually there should be some benefit. Otherwise, maybe you don't need to be in that market, right? Like, if it's just purely better from your competitors. But yeah, I think that's an important thing that you can research about and learn about, and making sure that you're earning your value. And a lot of times, like, I just know that, like, you buy that light from us or that piece of equipment from us when you email us and you go, hey, my fish is doing something. How do you fix that? There's no chance Amazon can answer that for you. So we inherently are kind of building that into our business model of, like, we're going to get extra questions. People are going to, when you ask Amazon something like, well, what's it doesn't say here on the listing, but what's the inseam of these pants? And they go, yeah, I don't know. Like, it doesn't say, we don't know. That's your answer, right? But if you were to email a specific smaller company, they might literally walk into the back warehouse, open one up, put the tape measure to it, take a picture, and show you. They're adding value. They're saving you potential time. You're like, oh, a good thing I asked, because that inseam would not have worked for what I needed. Phew, save time. Great, ordering the right size, right? Or whatever it's going to look like. So, but a lot of times that doesn't get factored into the cost, because you're purely going, they sell a product, we sell a product. If we sell it for more, people won't buy as much from us. They discount that you might have a better buying experience, you might ship faster, you might be. One of the things that can happen all the time is, you know, maybe someone's going to buy from you because you're in the same state. Oh, when I order from Virginia, I get it next day, right? Where, oh, I order from Amazon, it takes 3 days because whatever, right? So a lot of those things get overlooked and don't get factored in well enough, I think. Oh, plus my business is a service, so it's hands-on all day, every day. I don't sell products except my expertise. That is the easiest one to charge more for. So like my uncle, he runs a plumbing business, and he's got more work than he knows what to do with, always. And I tell him all the time, whenever you have more work than you can get to, and you're turning people away, he says, every day I have to tell people, unfortunately, my schedule's full and I can't do that job. And he works on commercial stuff and high-end houses, and he's well regarded in that he's honest, he's capable, he's got a lot of certifications. If you're working on a $10 million home, you don't have to worry about them stealing anything or him stealing anything. You don't have to worry about him making a mistake. You don't have to go back and fix his work. Like, he tells me stories like, yeah, they flew it in. It's an Italian espresso maker. They said they spent 40 grand on it, and I had to get it running. I had to convert the power. I had to do special fittings because the fittings don't fit the same fittings in the U.S. apparently. Like, all of these custom things, but he gets it going, right? And so I'm like, yeah, you should be charging a premium for this. And the way you do this is start raising your prices. So when you go to bid, whatever you would normally bid that job, bid at 10% more, right? And you're going to have some people go, well, you're too expensive, and therefore I don't want your service. But if you can do 10 jobs a week and you've got 50 people trying to book you, if you lose 20% of your clients, that doesn't matter because you can still only do 10 jobs. So you had 50 potentials, you lose, right? 20 of them, you've got 30 potentials, but the 10 that said yes, you now make 10% more money on. And I told him, just every year do this until you get to a point where you're not swamped with people wanting you, right? Either A, you got to hire more people, and he goes, well, when I hire more people, I run into maybe they aren't as good as I am, or maybe could be theft problems, or maybe, I won't tell the stories, but there's stories that have cost him lots and lots and lots of money to make good on his reputation, right? Because someone cuts a corner somewhere, someone's moving a hot water heater in and bashes the drywall and kind of does one of these, like, yeah, that must have been one of the other contractors working on the house. Gets it in and installs it, right? And then, like, oh, security camera footage caught it, and now my uncle's company looks bad for it, and blah, 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 right? But I tell him, I go, you're only getting older, right? You're only getting more experienced. You seem to know every part, everything off the top of your head. You do amazing work whenever you help me. Like, people that have money want to spend it with the best. They don't want to go, well, I had to have it done twice because the first guy was really bad, the second guy got it done. there's going to be those premium people that, oh, this has to be done in a timely manner. Because he'll go to a commercial kitchen or something, right? You need a high-end piece of equipment, put in your thing, and every night that restaurant's down, they're losing $30,000, right? And so they are going to be willing to pay, instead of a $3,000 install, they'll pay $3,300 to know they got it done right. You got it done quick. You had all the parts laid out before it even showed up. You had a window from midnight to 4 a.m. and you're willing to get it done so that when prep crew came in at 5 a.m. to start bakery stuff, it was all ready to go, right? And but he tends to be too nice. He's, I don't want to be charging people more money. And I go, I get it, but in some ways you're doing a disservice to your customers. You might accept 10 other people that will pay your money, but that other person, that restaurant would have paid you. You would have made more money on that job, and they would have been more satisfied had you done it that way. And everyone would still been happy. Customers happy, and you're happy for making more money. The only person not as happy is the people that you didn't help, but you couldn't help all of them anyway, right? So no matter what you do, you're going to disappoint 10 people. You may as well make the most money you can and make your customers as happy as you can, because the result is still 10 unhappy people because you couldn't, right? So yeah. All right, I have to go. I got to put socks on. I'm not wearing any socks yet, and now I got to go. From this, I'm going to go do. Randy will be there. General manager Robert will be there, and assistant manager will be doing a store walkthrough. We'll be figuring out what needs to be fixed, what needs maintenance, what needs this, that. I basically do like this level of stuff just in my own business, where it's my job to come in and be the critical one of like, hey, why are we so bad at this? How can we get better at this? This doesn't look good. Oh, that looks broken. Hey, when's the last time we actually replaced this? Like, this needs to be serviced every 3 years. Have we done that? And it might be stupid things like these fans. They're running on high. We don't run the fans on high in the winter. We run them on high in the summer. Yeah, tomorrow someone get on a ladder, turn those down. Just stuff like stupid stuff like that sometimes. Am I wearing flip flops? Nope, I'm not wearing anything right now. So, yeah. So I'll be going to do that. Taking me a couple hours, and unfortunately it seems to be stressful for other people, which I don't. I try to not make it, because to me it's a checklist of things we're going to get done. It's not a high stress environment, but it could just be the way I deliver it. I don't know. I'm trying. I should spend time learning on where does this go wrong, but we'll see. So thanks for hanging out. I'm gonna go do more work. This couple of hours is my fun time. If you will. I had some time to kill. I'm waiting on internet people and other people to come through with contracts I need to sign and other little check marky stuff. And now I get to go do real work. So we'll see you guys next